everybody. Welcome back to the channel. We're almost at the end of the NFL regular season, and that means that the playoffs are coming soon. And after that, the big game, right? The Super Bowl. It's produced some great performances and performers over the years, especially in the quarterback role. Tom Brady, along with Joe Montana, immediately come to mind. But there's also been lots of quarterbacks that either didn't do well in the game, or you look at their career and say, how in the heck did they get in the Super Bowl in the first place? And that's what this video is going to highlight. So let's get into the worst Super Bowl quarterbacks. Honorable mention, Joe Namath. How could I go with anyone else? I mean, Joe did win a Super Bowl. He won Super Bowl III versus the Baltimore Colts 16-7. But Joe's career as a whole has been highlighted on this channel before. 50 more interceptions than touchdowns, a career losing record, and only a 50% completion rate. Joe Namath just really wasn't that good, and he was not Super Bowl worthy. But hats off to him for getting the ring and getting in the Hall of Fame, even if I feel he didn't earn it. Honorable mention, Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G. Seems like a great guy and probably a great teammate. Wasn't really a great Super Bowl quarterback. Jimmy G was in Super Bowl 54 versus Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs while playing for the San Francisco 49ers. His stats for that game, 20 out of 31, 219 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Not good, but not terrible, but he did have a 20-10 lead late in the third quarter, and he could not hold it with Kansas City, coming back and scoring 21 unanswered to win the game. Jimmy G couldn't answer the bell. Like him a lot, but he's not a bad quarterback. I just don't think he's Super Bowl worthy. Number 5, David Woodley. David Woodley was the quarterback in Super Bowl 17 for the Miami Dolphins versus the then Washington Redskins. His stats for that game, 4 completions out of 14 attempts, 97 yards, so he had under 100 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Now, what was funny about David Woodley, he had a 65% win percentage as a quarterback during his 6 seasons in the NFL, despite throwing 48 touchdowns versus 63 interceptions. In 1985 for Pittsburgh, he had 4 wins and 2 losses as a starter while throwing 6 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. David Woodley sadly passed away at the age of 44 from liver failure, and he's number 5 on this list. Number 4, Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly had 4 trips to the Super Bowl, and by now everyone knows that they were all losses. He had a great career overall, but as a Super Bowl quarterback, he was not good at all. His best game was Super Bowl 25 versus the New York Giants, where he went a very nondescript 18 completions out of 30 attempts for 212 yards, 0 TDs, and 0 interceptions. In the other 3 Super Bowl games where he was at the helm for the Buffalo Bills, he had 63 completions out of 115 attempts with 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and the Bills lost those games by an average score of 40-18, and that's why Jim Kelly is on the list. Number 3, Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer basically stopped in Baltimore for a half a season, was the starting quarterback in Super Bowl 35, had a cup of coffee, and left out of there with a ring. Trent Dilfer in that game went 12 out of 25, 153 yards, 1 TD, and 0 interceptions. Baltimore basically had a terrific defense, and he was able to ride that defense to a Super Bowl ring. And I really don't think he was a Super Bowl worthy quarterback, but he did stay in the NFL for 13 years, and that is something to be proud of. His best season was 1997, where he led Tampa Bay to a 10-6 record with 21 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Trent Dilfer was called the ultimate game manager, which there's nothing wrong with being a game manager, but being a Super Bowl worthy quarterback, he was not. Number 2, Doug Williams. Doug Williams actually played in the USFL and the NFL, and he won the Super Bowl. He was the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl, winning Super Bowl 22 while playing for the then Washington Redskins versus the Denver Broncos by completing 18 passes out of 29 attempts for a whopping 340 yards and 4 touchdowns. For the rest of his career, which spanned several seasons with Washington plus 5 seasons with Tampa Bay, Doug had a career record as a starter of 38 wins against 42 losses. He also only had a 49% completion percentage, and in his 2 USFL seasons with the Outlaws, he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. Doug Williams is number 2. Coming in at number 1, Craig Morton. Craig Morton had 2 horrendous Super Bowl performances. He was 0-2 in the big game. Now, for a career, Craig Morton had like 18 seasons in the NFL, and that is something to be proud of. But let's look at his Super Bowl stats. Super Bowl 5, while playing for Dallas versus Baltimore. 12 out of 26 for 127 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. He followed that up years later in Super Bowl 12 versus Dallas, while now quarterbacking the Denver Broncos. 4 completions out of 15 attempts, only 39 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Guys, Craig Morton is the worst Super Bowl quarterback to have played in the big game. Hey, that's it for this list. I'd love to see your comments, read your thoughts, and see how you felt. Was there people that should have been on the list? Were there people that should have been left off of it? Can't wait to read it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and I will see you all in the next video.